I am so happy that I started my romance journey a couple years ago because I have read some absolutely beautiful books. Hey book besties, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be rounding up my top 10 romance reads of all time, at least for right now. Now, I've not really been a big romance reader for a while. I used to read romance when I was younger, but thriller was my genre for the longest time. But a couple years ago, I started adding in romance books, and I'm so happy I did because I love them so much. They're just so fun, so cute, so cozy. Some of them are a little emotional, which I love those too, but it's just been such a fun ride. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around for more book content. I love sharing book recommendations, reading roundups, book unboxing videos, and just all the fun bookish things. So make sure you're following along. So I rounded up my top 10 romance reads of all time thus far, and I'm very excited to share. I'm not going to share these in any particular order because I don't know if I could actually rank all of these, but let's just discuss all of my favorite romance books. And this is the best time of year to do it because it's Valentine's Day season. And I know that Valentine's is only the beginning of February, but I tend to think of February on a whole as being a love month. So yeah. So last year I started my Elsie Silver journey and 3 of her books made this list. Now I've read all but 2 that are released right now. So I've read a lot and they were so good. The first Elsie Silver book that made this list, The Frontrunner. This was my first 5-star Elsie Silver book read and I loved it. I adored the couple in this story, which is funny because the MMC in this one was a total dick in the first 2 books. I wasn't sure how I was gonna end up liking him, but he totally redeemed himself. I love this story so much. It had me swooning. I just adored these characters. Now that one was book 3 in a series, and I don't know if book 3 in an Elsie Silver series just hits different, but I also put Powerless on this list. This is book 3 in the Chestnut Springs series, and I ate it up. This is a friends to lovers romance that it made me realize that friends to lovers is one of my favorite tropes. It was so beautiful. The tension that happens in a good friends to lovers romance is just so palpable, and I loved it. I adored Jasper and Sloane, and I truly didn't know if another book would top their story, but it did. Because my next favorite romance book, Reckless. I loved this book so much. And I will say that as far as couples go, I would say I like Jasper and Sloane slightly more than I like Theo and Winter, but overall this book just really hit for me. I loved the way these 2 characters ended up together and the bond and the relationship that they created. Theo is top tier book boyfriend. It was so amazing. And one thing about this book that I was not expecting was the surprise pregnancy trope. It's not a spoiler, but it's on the back of the book, but I had no idea it was happening. So when it happened, I was like, oh, plot twist. No, it wasn't a plot twist. I didn't read the back of the book. But anyway, it elevated the experience for me and I loved it. In keeping with the adoration I have for the friends to lovers trope, the next book I have is Love is an Open Book. I was not expecting this book to hit as hard as it did, and honestly, I would never have picked this up if I wasn't sent this from the publisher. It's just one that I never see anybody talk about, but I am so happy that this was sent to me because I loved it. The relationship that these 2 friends have, again, the tension was so beautiful. This one also has a fake dating trope, which was done so well. I just adored these characters so much, both together and as individuals. I loved it, and I want everybody to read this book because it was truly so beautiful. Should we just keep it going with the friends to lovers romances? Because I've got another one. The next one are 2 books by the same author, and they're both Christmas books, but I loved them. First up, we have Lovelight Farms, another friends to lovers romance where actually fake dating too. Apparently I have some favorite tropes. Anyway, I loved this so much. It was such a beautiful story with these 2 characters who you could tell that they had chemistry together, but they were both fighting it. And it was just so beautiful. I loved how everything ended up happening with them, how they got together. And of course it was set on a Christmas tree farm, which is my favorite Christmas trope, I guess. But it was so beautiful. I absolutely loved it. And B.K. Borison knows how to write a good book. Because the next book on this list, Good Spirits. When I tell you, this relationship had me swooning, I mean, I like feel like I understood swooning as a definition of a word even better after reading this book. The scene, well, I don't want to give anything away, but there is a scene in here where my heart quite literally just leapt out of my chest because I was swooning so hard for these characters. It was such a beautiful story. And honestly, I know that this is a Christmas book. This, the main character, the male main character, is the ghost of Christmas past, so it's got a little bit of a Christmas Carol theme to it. But I will say that it's the Christmas like themes aren't so heavy that it makes it feel like you can only read this during Christmas. Like there's enough of a story here that's outside of the Christmas season, or is it just not talked about as much, that you could enjoy this any time of year. So I recommend people read it whenever they want because it was so good. Romantic suspense books are ones that are really catching my eye because it blends two of my favorite genres, and my favorite one of those right now is The Tomorrows After You. This is an indie book, and I think the author did a fantastic job of weaving both genres so well into this story because there was a lot of suspense in it and a lot of romance that was so beautiful. I loved how these two ended up together and the relationship that they built alongside each other while they were solving a mystery. It was so good. This is also another one that I would not have read unless I had been in an influencer program. There's this one influencer program I'm in that they send like books that you can recommend to read, and this was one of the ones, and I was like, ooh, this sounds really good, and I'm so glad I read it because it was incredible. Next is one of the books that I kind of consider the first romance book that I just fell so hard for, and that is The 7-Year Slip. This book was so hyped up online for a long time, and I mean, it still is, but now I understand the hype because this was such a lovely story about two people. It has some magical realism in it, which I love. So that was such a good way to build some tension and build some intrigue in the story. I loved it, and I was rooting so hard for these characters. Oh, if you haven't read this one yet, I recommend picking it up. It's so good. And my last two books are by the same author, Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love her writing. I've only read 3 of her books so far, and I need to read more, but oh my God, she does such a good job of really making you feel so deeply for her characters. Loved it. So the first one that I have on this list is When True Loves. Oh, when I tell you this is an emotional read, yeah, I loved it so much. I was not expecting to fall so hard, but this one was so intriguing. You were like, it's basically about this woman who's married to her husband. He goes off on some expedition and he's gone. He's missing. They can't find him. They presume that he's dead. She grieves really hard for him, and years later she ends up falling for somebody else. She marries him, and then she finds out that her husband is alive. Now again, that's not a spoiler. That's the plot of the book. And you're like wondering, what would you do in that situation? Who are you even rooting for in this? It was so good. It really made you think. It really made you feel. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. And the final book I have on this list as one of my favorite romance reads, Atmosphere. Oh my God, this was such a beautiful story, and it's more than just a romance as well. It's definitely a historical fiction vibe too. We're following Joan, who is an astronaut in the 80s, and she's gay, but she doesn't really know it yet. So you're following her along her journey of becoming an astronaut, and I'll be honest, when I first saw this was getting released, I was totally turned off by that. I was like, I'm not gonna be interested in that. I'm not gonna read that. It's just not something I'm into. So I'm glad that I ended up reading it because it was one of my favorite books I read last year. And this story, when I tell you it tugged so deep on my heartstrings, it was so beautiful. And the ending of this book had me sobbing. I don't always cry in books, and if I do, it might be shed a tear or two, but this one, I was literally sobbing. When I finished that last page, I just sobbed for like 10 minutes after, but not in a bad way. It was just incredible. Like I said, Taylor Jenkins Reid really knows how to write a book, and this one was absolutely beautiful. Well, there you have it, my top 10 romance reads of all time. And of course, this is subject to change as I add more romance reads into my reading journey. There are so many on my TBR. I have a lot to get through, but I'm excited to find more romance books that I just love. In the comments, let me know what some of your favorite romance reads are, because I'll probably need to add them to my TBR. Thanks for watching, besties. I'll see you next time.